Welcome to the Word for 2021. Today we're in Joshua chapter 8. As I've been reading these first 8 chapters of Joshua, there's a theme that I'd like to bring out to you. In Joshua chapter 1, Joshua said to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, even though you already have your inheritance on the east side of the Jordan, I want to remind you that you are to go over with your brothers and fight for them until they have their inheritance. We all are in this together. We all need to go and fight, Joshua said. Then in Joshua chapter 3, they all crossed the Jordan on dry ground. In Joshua chapter 6, they all marched around Jericho, and then they all shouted with a great and mighty shout. But in Joshua chapter 7, when the spies came back, they said, we don't need everyone. We just need a few, maybe 2,000 or 3,000. That's all it's going to take. And so only a few were called up, not everyone. And what took place? They lost the battle. Now again, Achan had sinned, and no one knew that. But there was that whole idea that we really don't need everyone. But then in Joshua chapter 8, today's chapter, the very first verse, God says, take the whole army with you and go up and attack Ai. God was saying, I need everyone to take part. Everyone has a part to play. You know, there's a saying in life, 20% of the people do 80% of the work. It might be like that for you at your work. That seems to be a norm everywhere you look, even in the church. Some people think that, well, it's the paid staff and those that volunteer, they do the ministry. It's 20% of the people doing 80% of the ministry. But what happens when that takes place? When only 20% of the people are doing 80% of the ministry, that leaves everyone else just to watch. And when people just simply watch, then it's very common they start to evaluate. And then they start to judge. They judge the music. They judge the message. They judge the ministry. They're just there to look on and then make evaluation. Well, the truth is that in the church, we are to be a body, and every person has a part to play. We are all needed. We are all important. Everyone is supposed to take part. We are all priests. We are the priesthood of all believers. And that means that every one of us is a minister. God wants to use us to make a difference in someone else's life. We need one another. We need to encourage each other. I took 2 words and I went to the Bible and I found all the different places in the New Testament where the 2 words one another are found. And this is what I discovered. Over and over again, Paul used the phrase one another, and he said, be devoted to one another, honor one another, live in harmony with one another, love one another, stop passing judgment on one another, accept one another, instruct one another, agree with one another, greet one another, encourage one another, serve one another, bear up with one another, be kind and compassionate to one another. Are you seeing a theme taking place? Paul went on and he said, forgive one another, submit to one another, admonish one another, spur one another on to good deeds. Do not slander one another. Do not grumble against one another. Offer hospitality to one another. And again and again and again, Paul said, love one another. Do you see what Paul is trying to say? Again, we need each other, and we need to encourage and work with one another. In fact, when we are all working together, the church is effective. When we're all working together, the church, it moves forward. And when we're all working together, not even hell can stop the movement of the church. We need one another. Thank you for joining the Word for 2021.